In Love and War, written by Lily Baxter, read by Penelope Freeman. The moral right of the author has been asserted. Chapter 1. Sutton Darcy, Dorset, August 1914. The sound of marching feet had brought the whole village out onto the main street to see the newly formed Pals Battalion go off to war. Elsie Mead had been on her way home to Tan Cottage, having just left Colonel Mason's house on the edge of the village, where she'd been dressing Mrs. Mason's hair. Cora Mason was many years younger than her husband, and considered herself to be a leader of fashion, even though she had to make do with the minimum of servants to manage her household. Without the benefit of a personal maid, she often called upon Elsie to put her hair up in the elaborate pompadour style made famous by the Gibson girls at the end of Queen Victoria's reign, and Elsie had not the heart to tell Cora that this was no longer the height of fashion. Today of all days, Cora said she wanted to stand at the Colonel's side and make him proud, and Elsie had done her best to execute the complicated coiffure while listening politely to Cora's incessant chatter. She had answered in monosyllables and nods of her head where appropriate, but her thoughts were with the young men who were leaving home to fight for their country. She'd known all of them since they attended the village school together, and now they were going off to face the horrors of war. She stopped to wave to the Dodd brothers, Luke, Frank and Jim, whose father was a fisherman and would now have to find another crew. Mickey Fowler winked at her and tipped his cap, and his brother Joe blew her a kiss. She couldn't help thinking that the game birds on the Winter family's estate would be safer in the absence of the Fowler boys. They were a wild pair, but they were not bad at heart. She had danced with both of them at the last harvest supper, but this year the celebrations would be shadowed by worry and even loss. It didn't bear thinking about. It was a ragtag band that set off on the great adventure, and their young faces glowed with excitement. She made an effort to send them away with a cheerful smile, but she had a feeling of foreboding as she made her way home, stopping first at the doctor's surgery to collect a bottle of laudanum for her sick mother. It was a hot day, and the sun beat down on her bare head as she walked along the lane between hedgerows heavy with dusty green foliage, and busy with the wildlife that lived and foraged in the knotted roots and branches. Hedge sparrows popped up like tiny automatons and disappeared just as quickly. Field mice rustled the leaves, and hedgehogs curled up amongst the dead leaves and slept until dusk, when they came out to look for food. It was all so familiar, and yet the cloudless sky and summer sun were overshadowed by world events that had reached out to touch a sleepy English village. Elsie stopped and looked round as someone called her name. "Elsie, wait!" Phyllis Piper, one of the housemaids who worked at Darcy Hall, came running towards her. "Wait a minute," she said breathlessly. "I've been sent to see if your ma's well enough to return to work. We're short-handed because 2 of the housemaids have left to find jobs in the town, and some of the other girls are threatening to do the same. There are plenty of jobs vacant with so many men enlisting, and they're taking on women." "Ma's confined to bed, Phyllis. I don't know when she'll be well enough to work again." "Oh, Mrs. Tranter will skin me alive if I go back without someone to give us a hand. Miss Marianne's arriving today, and there's a big dinner party planned for tomorrow. We're going to need all the help we can get." Elsie eyed her thoughtfully. "I suppose I could help out for a couple of days. I've applied for several jobs as a lady's maid, but most of them want someone to live in, and I can't leave Ma while she's so ill." Phyllis took off her straw hat and fanned herself vigorously. "You was unlucky that old Mrs. Tunbridge popped off so sudden. I've heard that Rose Hill is up for sale." "I've been with the old lady since I left school. I did everything for her, and she was good to me. Positions like that don't come up very often." "Well, it won't be the sort of work you're used to, Elsie, but if you don't mind doing the cleaning, it'll be a big help." Phyllis moved a little closer, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting to find eavesdroppers lurking behind the hedge. "They say in the kitchen that Miss Marianne's aunt wants to see her married off as soon as possible and out the way." Elsie was in a hurry to get home, but she couldn't resist a bit of gossip that might cheer her mother up. "Surely it's up to Miss Marianne's parents to look to her future." "Aye, yes, but they're still in India, and will be for some time. Miss
Sample complete. Ready to continue?